Edgar Adrian and such as Sherrington. Both of these people, this is such as Sherrington, Edgar Adrian, they have done a lot of work as far as us understanding the brain is concerned. And of course, I talked of this time, this thing last time, so I wouldn't want to continue discussing what they did and how they did it all through. So for today, let us just go straight to the content of what we needed. Okay. I also commented about this Phineas Cage, who was a railroad worker whose skull, this metal rod is had to struck through his skull downward in the left eye here, but the guy survived. He didn't die. So people formerly people thought that when something pierces through your skull or your brain, you die. But of course, even up to now, we have had people who have been shot in the head and they have not died. Okay, so I wouldn't want to so much talk about those people because I talked about them last time. Now today, let us go to the main topical discussion today, which is the brain and the spinal cord. Now the central nervous system is made up of the brain and the spinal cord, and you can see it is very clear that the brain is made up of different regions for your own information. Now this slide kind of summarizes the different parts of the brain that we must understand. The upper part being the cerebrum, and I want you to take note of these spellings, by the way. Cerebrum. And then the middle part, you have the thalamus and hypothalamus down. Then it is, we are having the corpus callosum. And then we are having the pituitary gland. And then the medulla. Then this one is called the pons. Here, this is the pons. And then here is the midbrain here. This is the midbrain. And then this thing in the corner is called the cerebellum, and then spinal cord. So we're going to understand what each one does. In summary, the hypothalamus regulates the water content, or you can call it osmoregulation of blood. And it is the center for feeling thirsty, hunger, sleep, speech, sex, and so on and so forth. That's cerebellum here. Sorry, that's hypothalamus here. It's very small. Then the cerebellum, it controls and coordinates balancing organs and muscles. This one in the corner, the cerebellum. And then the cerebrum, that is the upper part of the brain, or you can call it the forebrain, controls all the voluntary activities. It is a center for memory, for you to be able to remember, judgment, whether you should jump or shouldn't jump, whether you should slap someone or you shouldn't, and reasoning. And it receives impulses from the sensory organs as well. This upper part of the brain. Then the medulla oblongata controls the involuntary activities such as the heartbeat. And I've shown you the medulla, which is just below the pons. Here, the medulla is just below the pons. So I'm going to look at everything in detail. But basically, your brain must store information. It receives impulses from all sensory organs. It interprets impulses. It coordinates body activities, initiates responses. So all those are different functions of the brain. Okay. And the brain, I've already told that it is covered and protected externally by the skull and internally by membranes called meninges. The outermost membrane being the dura mater and the innermost membrane being the pia mater, being separated by some kind of space with fluid, which is arachnoid. So those some of those information you may not need so much to know about it. The brain basically is divided into three regions, which is the upper part, that is the forebrain. Now the forebrain includes the cerebrum as well as the thalamus and hypothalamus. around here. Actually, it should be around here. Then this midbrain should be around here. Okay. And then the hindbrain, which includes the pituitary gland, the pons, medulla oblongata, and the cerebellum. Those are the different parts of the brain. Now, the picture that you are seeing actually is a picture of the brain when they have cut. I'm assuming this is your head. I'm assuming this is your head, and the brain is in there. So your brain is going to be, actually your brain has two regions. It has the left and the right. Okay, these are eyes. This is your nose, and then your lips. Okay, so what we are doing is when we cut through, when we cut through like this from up going downward, that is the sagittal section according to the medical language, or in our normal biology language, you can call it the longitudinal section through the brain. Okay, this is the half that you see. I want you to be very, very much critical and clear on this. This is the half that you see. Now, when we turn the other around so that we are able to look at you in sideways, I'm assuming this is your sideways. Assuming this is your sideways. Okay. Now, what we are seeing is this part when we have cut, and that is the cerebrum. That is the cerebrum, as well as this part which separates, the part which separates this one here is called the Corpus Callosum. This one that separates the left, this is the right hemisphere, and the left hemisphere of the brain. So that is the Corpus Callosum. Now, just here, this is just a fluid-filled cavity, which you can call the ventricle of the brain. And then you go to what we call the thalamus and hypothalamus. Then from the hypothalamus, there's an extension of two ball-like structures, which is the pituitary gland. And then this kind of shaped structure is the cerebellum. So I want us to first understand each one. Now, when you've not cut the brain and you are looking at it from above as it is, you will not be able to see the corpus callosum. You will not be able to see the medulla, but rather you mostly see this mass of brain, which is basically the cerebrum. And the cerebrum has different regions. For example, the frontal lobe controls thinking, planning, solving problems, emotions, personality, and body movement. That is the frontal lobe. Okay. And then the kind of midway up here where they call akawompo. I don't know whether you know the meaning of the word kawompo. Normally where the chiwarata begins from, if you are going to get it from the center of your head, that's where you have the parietal lobe. And the parietal lobe processes information from the senses, taste, smell, touch, sight, and hearing. But of course, it has those different small lobes, which you can, for example, if you're looking at optical lobes, they'll be found here, which are entirely in charge of sight, or the olfactory lobes, which are in charge of smell. They are all going to be found within this space. Then on the sideways, if someone close to the ear, the upper tip of the ear, that's where you have the temporal lobe. There are some people who are in discipline, they don't want to mute. Sheila, Rebecca. So this side where at the tip of the ear, maybe for some of you may be lost. Let me first draw your head here so that you don't get lost. This is your head, that is the forehead and pumi. Those are your lips. And then this side, this is where you're going to find the corner. And then the backbone will run through like that. So the spinal cord will have to continue like that, new backbone. Now this side of the forehead, this is the frontal side that I was talking about, the upper, the parietal. Then on the side close to your ear, that's the temporal lobe. Inside here, this is where you find structures like the hippocampus. Of course, you can't see it here. The hippocampus, the amygdala, which control, for example, the hippocampus is in charge of the long-term memory. Why is it that you are able to remember me that Teacher Bbumba is our biology teacher on Edify? That is the hippocampus that enables you to store the information in your long-term memory so that you don't forget me. That is the hippocampus. And then they're all here. But of course, you may not need to, for you just get to understand the region in general. And here we have not yet dissected sagittally, or we don't have the sagittal section in this way. We have not yet dissected through the head like that, so that you are able to separate the left hemisphere from the right hemisphere. Even when you are seeing here that there is the pituitary gland here, you can't actually see it here well. You get it? Because you must first cut, and then you're able to see it clearly. Okay? And then the brain stem, basically where the brain sits, includes the pons and the medulla oblongata. That's what makes the brain stem, and controls functioning that keep you alive, including breathing. Specifically, that will be the medulla oblongata, swallowing, heart rate, blood pressure. All those ones are controlled there. Then on your one corner, I don't know how they call them corner in Luganda, in English, but this side of the head, you have the cerebellum. The cerebellum coordinates movement and balance here. Okay. And this part here is very, very much important. You see, if you want to know how important that part is, if you ever get a hammer, a nyondo, a hammer is called a nyondo in Luganda. If you ever get a hammer and you hammer here in the forehead, probably someone may get a swelling, aka also known as a kamonde. So you may develop a kamonde here or a swelling. But if you hit using a hammer with the same magnitude behind here, apart from developing a tissue or swollen tissue or kamonde, this person may lose consciousness and they fall down. And if not with the intervention of God, someone may die. This, because when you hit hard here, you're going to shake this cerebellum, which connects movement and balance. So the person is going to lose balance. And if the shaking has been vigorous, that it has also shaken the medulla oblongata, then that's trouble. You're gonna make someone stop breathing, and the heart is going to stop pumping. What will happen when the heart stops pumping, you stop breathing? It means you have just killed someone. Death. You have just killed. So you never hit someone from the back. You would rather at least punch him here, but never ever try punching someone on the back or hitting someone hard on the back. So it will be a little bit deadly. Now, understanding the brain and the different regions, whereby I've already told you that the upper part of the brain is the forebrain, okay? And the forebrain is basically made up of this huge mass of neurons. You can call it the cerebral cortex, aka cerebrum. Now, cerebrum, the thalamus, and hypothalamus make up the forebrain. And I think you can see, now this one, you can see it's a three-dimensional picture. They hadn't cut through. That's why you are able to see this kind of pear-like structure of the cerebrum so that you can look inside. They made it transparent here so that you can look inside. And then you're able to see that actually inside, when you look through, that's when you can see the thalamus, hypothalamus, and the pituitary gland. Okay. Now from there, from below the thalamus, you have the brain stem. and pons, medulla, and then beside the cerebellum. Okay. Nansubuga Agatha is asking what causes headache. Headache, there are very many causes depending on what you are suffering from. But what I can tell you, Nansubuga, is that your most common headaches, which are not as a result of sickness, they may be due to the fact that you have taken long without excreting. For example, you may take long without going to the toilet to defecate. You've taken 2 days or 1 day and a half. You're going to get some headache. Or yeah, it's mostly excretion. That is what may bring about small headache, which are not always a result of sickness. I want you to get me well. I don't want you to quote me poorly. Then we can, of course, go to if we are to cut through like this with a knife, moving this side, that's when you are able to see the longitudinal section through the brain, or the sagittal section. Then moving forward, the brain and the nervous system. I've already told you that we are understanding the structure. Now, for most students, what I know is that when you see, for example, the cerebellum being labeled here, you think that this part here is the cerebellum, is the cerebrum. Kumbe, even here it is cerebrum, even like the whole of this brown orange like structure. Even when you do like this is the same as cerebrum. Like the entire brown thing here. Some of you may want to think. And then Nansubuga says, what is the waste product when someone is B? I'm not getting it, Nansubuga. Then JHK says, what is stroke? Now JHK, with stroke, normally there is for stroke to happen, normally there is a temporary deprivation of oxygen to the brain. That is what causes stroke. Like the brain should never ever miss any second without brain, so not brain, without oxygen. If that happens, you may develop what we call stroke. And if it occurs for a long time, it may damage some other parts of the brain, which can be very, very fatal to the personality to your personality and everything. So that's stroke, temporary deprivation of oxygen to the brain. Then Nansuga says, what is the waste product? That one I've already. I mean, when another one is being formed. I'm not getting what is the waste product when someone's brain gets old? Nansuga, according to biology, waste products are those unwanted substances that the body gets rid of, which may include the urea, feces, carbon dioxide. You see that? But now I don't know what you mean by when someone gets old, what would be the waste product of the brain? The brain can never be a waste product. It is not, because those are cells there. You can't call them waste products, okay? Going forward, I've been telling you that this is the cerebrum. Then you are having this corpus callosum. This one is the one which separates the left hemisphere from the right hemisphere. Then you are having this ventricle of the brain with some fluid in it. And then the upper part below the corpus callosum, you have the thalamus, hypothalamus. Moving forward, you go to the pituitary gland, then the midbrain, okay, then the pons, medulla oblongata, then finally down, you continue to the spinal cord. Now, this kind of structure, which looks like this, is always the cerebellum. You know that it's in charge of balancing, okay, and posture. So you should not forget that. Still, with the brain, why did I decide to put many pictures of the brain and in different pictures. I know that you guys have grown up watching TV, so you understand mostly by watching, and that's why I put Nansuga is asking that what I mean is that doesn't the brain excrete waste products? Now I want you to, Nansuga, to take it on the cellular level. The brain uses oxygen, and anything that uses oxygen in your body, it respires. So your cells respire. To respire, I told you, it doesn't mean that you take in air and out. No, it means that you can break down food to release, to get energy. Okay. And one of the waste products of respiration is actually carbon dioxide. I think you can now understand, you can now get the answer to your question. And then Aaron says, what's the part of the brain in charge of thinking? The part of the brain in charge of thinking, I've already told you, it is actually the cerebrum. That's the center for reasoning. Okay. And then Narusiva says, Mister, is it true that they make Panadol using brain? No, that's not true. Panadol, one of the active ingredients in Panadol is called paracetamol, a chemical substance. It's an organic substance which they can even make in the lab. If you study organic chemistry at A-level and continue, you will see how you can make paracetamol. Then Murungi says, teacher, why is it that when someone grows old, becomes wiser? That is a false statement, a misconception. I think you are getting this from Obukadde Magezi, like the Sambaganda who say Obukadde Magezi. But that's not true, that when someone, there are some people who become more stupid as they are growing old. They keep on becoming stupid and more stupid. So it's not true that whoever you find an old man is wise, no? I'm seeing Kathy. Yes, Kathy, you have a question, please ask. Kathy, when you put up your hand, please, I ask you to unmute. You do it very fast, such that we don't over waste time. Yes, Madam, I'm seeing Madam Kathy. Well, that's the name. Yes, please. What?
Why does, when someone is knocked on the head, the brain can...
The brain can do what?
Like, she or he loses the brain.
Madam Kathy, when you are knocked on the head, you don't lose the brain. The brain stays there.
I mean, like, she can forget some things.
It depends. It depends on someone. There are some people who are naturally, they are forgetful. But it's not true that whenever someone is hit on the head, then they forget. That's not true.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a misconception, that when you hit on the head, then someone forgets. No. Then Christine.
Hello, teacher.
Yes.
I'm having a question. I found a certain question which was saying that what's the fate of a stimuli or an impulse? Me, I thought that it's the brain, but we're having arguments that it's not the brain where the fate of the stimuli ends.
Do you know the meaning of the word fate?
In biology, it changes.
Oh wait, what's the meaning of the word fate?
The destination, the final destination.
Okay, fate is like what may happen, like what's supposed to happen. So can you repeat your question again?
What is the fate of a stimuli or an impulse in a human body?
Now the impulse doesn't have what you must know. Remember from what we studied last time. there are structures in your body that generate the impulses. Those are the sensory cells. Now, the impulses travel along axons, you get it, to the brain.
Yes.
And in the brain, it makes the interpretation, and then impulses still continue via the relay neuron, then to the motor neuron. That means the impulse comes back to the particular body organ, which must react, what we call the effector organ. So the fate, if you want to put it like fate or the final destination, the impulse must end at the effector organ that is going to execute, whether to carry out the action which you want to do.
So,
You
teacher,
get it?
if they ask me that what is the fate of the stimuli, so I have to describe from where it starts and to where it ends, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
But you're welcome, but that would be a poorly set question. I wouldn't encourage anyone to set it like that. And then Lona says, good afternoon. Which part of the brain brings about left-handedness and right-handedness? Now, that thing of left-handedness and right-handedness, actually, very many people have different myths and misconceptions. But what I can tell you is normally when you are right-handed, like you use most of the things to do using the right hand, it means that it is your left part of the brain that controls, that dominates most. I don't know whether you get me. If you are left-handed and you are using your left hand to do everything, like that's your hand, it means that it is your right hand of your right hemisphere of the brain that is controlling, because the left hemisphere controls the right, and the right hemisphere controls the left. I don't know whether you get me. Then Priska says, can you carry out a brain transfer? No, Priska, no, that's not possible. Someone would be dead already, because there are some portions of the brain whereby even if it were a surgery of the brain and you tap it, the person may never get back, they die. Now Lucifer says, sir, why is it that our thinking capacity is not the same when we all have brains? Now, what you must know is that our brain cells, actually, they may grow at different speeds. And actually, how does the brain store information? Now, that information is way much ahead to explain. Because I don't know how I should comment about it in simple terms. But in simple terms, what you must know is that maybe you may need to find out how does the brain store information. Okay, now that process may be faster in some people's bodies. You get it? Genetically, and because some people's bodies genetically they have like hormones actually are involved, what you must know. And you must know that our bodies produce different hormones in different concentrations and at different rates. You get me? That's the simple way of how I can break it down. Then Chavo says, teacher, what if a bullet passes through the cerebrum? Does it mean one will forget? Or lose his memory? Yes, you can lose your memory. How much oxygen does the brain need to keep conscious? It depends on someone's body, blood volume, and all those things. What causes brain cancer, or you can call them brain tumors? Of course, there are many things that cause cancer, and generally we give them the name as carcinogenic. Carcinogenic, those are things which may cause cancer. But you guys, I want you to ask, okay, the questions are to do with the brain. There's someone with the best IQ meaning intelligent quotient. Yes, there are people there who have a very good IQ, and not everyone in formal education has a very good IQ. There are some people who have, because for example, the things that were discovered, most of them were discovered by people who are not even in formal education. You get it? So those are some of the questions that have come through the chat box, and we can continue and understand the brain structure. So this upper part, the cerebrum, separated by, I've told you that it's the one that controls thinking, reasoning, and all those things. Then you have the corpus callosum, you have this ventricle of the brain, which is fully filled. You have the thalamus, hypothalamus, pituitary gland, the brain stem, or sorry, the midbrain, the pons, medulla, oblongata, cerebellum. So you must know all those parts, okay? And then this pineal body, of course, at this level, normally don't talk much about the pineal body or pineal gland, which the one which determines the circadian rhythms. Like you to be able to understand that it is dark, now let me sleep. Your sleeping rhythms are also controlled within your brain. And then Mronji says, teacher, why is it that some people are born clever, others are born dull? I don't know what you mean by clever and dull, but I've already told you the way the brain stores information. It's a very complicated process, but just know there are cells that do it. So probably those people's cells are faster at coding information. You get it? Claire says if the brain has two parts, then does that mean that each side controls each side of the body? Yes, Claire. The left side of the brain, that is the left hemisphere, controls the right. You get it? Actually, in simple terms, this is what I can say. Left-handed people, it is their right side of the brain which is dominant. And you guys who use right, it is your left side which is what? Dominant. The left hemisphere. That's what I can put it. And I put for you this picture here. Kylie, you have a question? Kylie?
Teacher, what if you have both? What if you have both?
What do you mean by you have both?
You have the left, you use both hands. What if you use both hands, like the left and the right hand? Is it both of them working?
Okay, now, normally what happens is that, you see, in our African culture, we have, because most people tend to be right-handed, so whichever child was using left, they would force them to use right, and sometimes they would even cane them for using left. Yet, by default, these people's brain was written to use the left, the right. You get it? Now, because this person was caned and they forced him, so he actually, it's like they trained him to use the right. You get it? So they are able to use both because they were trained to use the right. So even if you are right-handed and you train your left, it can work, but of course it takes time. So this person grows up because one, by default, they don't need to train their left. It is by default, that's what is dominant, it's what they will use. But now they were trained to keep on using right, or they were forced into using right. And that's why they grow up when they can use both. And then Annette says, Adrico says, when one runs mad normally, how is it treated when someone runs mad? And then Annette says, on the rightness and leftness, I have a question. Why some people change from left to right? That is what I've just said. That in most cases, someone trains. Actually, if you got an accident, you people, and let's say you have been using right and you get an accident, your brain is going to switch and you are going to learn to use the left. Techno Phantom, please always rename yourselves well. Techno, what's your question?
Yeah, so my question is that which part of the brain is active when someone is sleeping?
Okay, that's a nice question. Which part of the brain is active when someone is sleeping? Now, Thank you for that question. Maybe some people may be knowing. Let me first sample out if there are some people who may try out. Please, when you have nothing to say, you mute. You mute. Yeah, which part of the? You can always raise your hand. What do you think? Let's first answer this question. Then JK says, can one go mad because of the highest IQ? Let us first answer this question of which one. I'm seeing someone in the names of Madame Cathy. Would you like to answer? Which part of the brain is active when someone is sleeping?
I think
Yes, Namoli.
it's the cerebrum.
Okay.
I think it's the cerebrum.
Okay. Thank you, Namoli, for that contribution. Namoli thinks that it's this part, the cerebrum. Actually, for you to be able to see brain activity, it's a little bit of a complex subject which you guys could study and and advance more in it. I don't know whether you guys have heard of MRI machines and all those things, but also there are some other machines which are able to see brain activity as someone is sleeping or when they're doing a certain activity. And that study was done so much by the other guys, Wanike and Promise. You have a question?
Teacher, I wanted to answer that question.
Yes, please go on.
Teacher, I think it's the thalamus.
The thalamus, why do you think so?
So I'm just guessing.
Okay, thank you for guessing, Promise. Let me see some other person. Timothy Toby. Yes, Timothy. Timo, you can unmute and you tell us.
Teacher, what I think, as Promise said, is the hypothalamus because it regulates temperature regulation, and some other functions in the body. So you can't sleep and your temperature goes below normal or goes above normal. It has to regulate that temperature by doing what it does.
Okay, thank you very much, Timo. I think we are beginning to get to now combine. Let's also first hear from Christine. Christine, what do you say? Christine.
Oh. Hello, are you hearing me?
Yes, Christine, I hear you.
I think it's the thalamus. Because
Why?
the thalamus, it integrates sensory impulses from the eyes and sends them to the cerebral cortex of the cerebellum. It also directs.
Hello? But Christine, when they said when you are sleeping, your eyes are closed, remember?
Yeah, it directs impulses from all the body parts to particular areas of the brain. It's the thalamus. It controls sleep.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Now, by the way, I don't know whether the person who asked this question is already getting ideas. And what the ideas that I'm talking about? You find that you cannot say that when someone is sleeping, all the brain is asleep. That's my idea. I don't know whether you've gotten from what people have been contributing. Because if you know, okay, let me go back here to this first slide. If you know that, so let me ask a question. When you are sleeping, I think this slide may not bring it out well here. So when you are sleeping, do you stop breathing? Does your heart stop pumping? Are you saying that? When you're breathing, do you stop? Do your emotions entirely stop? Because you find that you find someone sleeping and they are smiling. You see that? You find someone sleeping and they are laughing within the sleep. You find on someone like what I'm trying to say is that even if you are sleeping, you can't have the brain shutting down. The brain does not shut down. You get it? And maybe if the question was which one is the most active, because with the other computer simulations which are able to detect brain activity in different situations, the brain, certain portions of the brain become more active depending on a certain activity that you are involved in. You get it? But you cannot tell me that the entire brain shuts down and they only leave work for only one part. I hope I've answered that question. The other person who was asking. So going forward, okay, thank you. Going forward, so this upper part, by the way, for your own information, the humans, we, the Homo sapiens, okay? Homo sapiens means the species of the group of the hominids that are wise, because we came from the genus of the hominids, the family of Hominidae. I hope you are getting me well, okay? So that means that means that what was I trying to say? Yeah, our brain is the largest among all the species. By the, I don't know whether you've ever tried to slaughter a dog, embwa. If you slaughter a dog, its brain can actually fit in your palm. The brain of a dog, it can fit there. You see that? But you to hold human brain, it is a large mass. You need both your hand, your palms. You get it? Or even if it is a cow, the human brain is way larger than the cow brain, much as the brain of the cow is bigger, but the volume or space where the brain sits within a cow is small. So we are so much, and that's why we are so much delighted that we have the biggest brain among all the species, I think. So because it is big, we are able to, our cerebrum is so much expanded. Our cerebrum expanded, especially at the level of the Homo erectus. And so we are able to integrate, think, reason, and all those things. Now, cerebrum controls the body's voluntary activities. You decide, walking, for example, you've decided to come and study. You can decide to just keep quiet and listen, or you may decide to just sleep. You can decide to eat, to sing, and so on and so forth. So learning, personality, your behavior is all controlled within this large space of mass called cerebrum. And the memory. I've already told that it has different lobes, which we normally talk about: the parietal lobe, the temporal lobe. That, like, each lobe controls a certain kind of thing. Speech is initiated there. Okay. There was some scientist. They talk of, yeah, was it Wanike? No, it was not Wanike. I'm forgetting the exact name of the scientist. They tried to study, because there were some people who couldn't speak, but they were understanding language, and they were like, what is wrong with these people? What's happening? You get it? So they were able to study them. Then the corpus callosum, this connects the left and right cerebral hemispheres, allowing the two sides of the cerebrum to communicate. Have I told you that the brain is divided into the right and then the left part of the brain? The left part of the brain. Isaac says that means the brain is the engine. Probably. Then, hello teacher, what's the lobe in simple terms? In simple terms, lobe is like a portion of the brain. For example, if you're having this front portion and you are calling it the frontal portion or the frontal lobe, then this sideways you are calling the temporal lobe. It's like a small portion. Then like that, occipital lobe behind. So it has different portions. That's what I can call lobes in simple terms. And then I already said that the cerebrum, this is the largest part of the brain with two hemispheres, the left and right cerebral hemispheres. The right hemisphere controls activities of the left part of the body, while, yes, Derisa, you have a question? Derisa, yes, Derisa, you have a question. I think that was a mistake. Let's continue. So, Aaron. Aaron, you have a question? Oh, I need to unmute you. Yes, Aaron. Okay, let me end with this question because of time.
Hello?
Yes, please. Can you please go on and ask?
Hello?
Yes, please ask. We can hear you. I think it's his network. Let me go to these comments. From the comments, Timothy says, hey, teacher, Blessing says, do you in case have any frontal view of the brain apart from the sideway one? Front view? What do you mean by front view? When like you're facing someone, or when you're facing someone, of course it will appear like it tapers a little bit with two hemispheres. Of course, normally this space is so small. This space is so small, so you will be seeing these 2 points, one there and another there in front. Maybe unless you want for you to see them like this, like if it were the front view, like that, and this is the head. These are the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. So this is how you see them from the front, but from above, you'll see them as those lobes which are a little bit bigger like that. I don't know which kind of view we're talking about. Then we are left with a few minutes. Let me first see these questions. Why can't an elephant reason like humans, yet its brain is much bigger? And then why can't an elephant reason like a human, yet its brain is much bigger? I don't know whether you've studied the anatomy of the elephant brain. Do they have an expanded cerebral cortex like the humans? I don't know. You can try to tell us whether they have an expanded cerebral cortex like the one of humans relative to their body sizes. Then Martin says, teacher, human brain is the largest of all animals. I don't know whether you are stating or you are just confirming. So I think you can see that it is time. It's time. Let me end with Jovia Masinde. You have a question? Okay, she doesn't have. Is there any other question? So we can. Yes.
How can I find the notes? Because I'm a newcomer.
The notes, please go to Google Classroom and ready. These notes are there. I uploaded them. you'll find notes which have a title, the brain. You'll find them in Google Classroom. Okay, for some of you who have more questions, we shall deal with them. And Claire, let me end with Claire's question. Is the brain directly connected to the eyes? Eyes have, in eyes, there are cells which enable you to see. The cone and rod cells, they have synaptic connections direct to the brain at the optical lobes of the brain. So it is true. Okay. And Aaron says that unlike other measurements, our cerebral cortex usually comes out on top compared to other animals, even when compared to other primates. So that's why humans are smarter. Thank you, Aaron, for that information. Otherwise, bye-bye and enjoy yourselves. Bye-bye. Goodbye.
Bye, teacher.
Bye, teacher.
Bye, teacher.
Thanks for the lesson.
Bye, teacher.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Bye.